Do you trust me? I mean, really trust me? Now there's a question for you. How the hell do you answer that? If you say yes, you really trust her, you know damn well you're not going to like the next thing that comes out of her mouth. But if you say no, you don't trust her, you're probably going to regret it even more. Ken needed a few seconds to think. Before I answer that, you want to tell me what would prompt a question like that? Why would you think I don't trust you? I didn't say that. I didn't say I don't think you trust me. I was asking a question. Yeah, well, there's a reason for the question, and I'd like to know what it is before I answer. Honey, it's a simple question. Do you trust me? Yes or no? It's not a simple question, and you know it. There is no way I'm going to give you an answer without knowing the purpose for the question in the first place. Jennifer sighed. This was not going the way she had hoped. He was supposed to say, yes, of course I do, then she'd have him boxed in. But no, he was too smart for that and wasn't going for it even a little bit. Time to fall back and try a different approach, she thought. She decided honesty was the best policy. I need you to trust me, honey. I have to go away for the weekend, and I don't want you to ask any questions. What? Oh, hold on just a damn minute here. You're planning to go away for the weekend, and I'm not supposed to ask you where you're going or what you'll be doing. Exactly. I know it's a lot to ask, honey, but in 8 years of marriage, have I ever given you cause to distrust me? She responded. No, at least not until now. Honey, you have to see how ridiculous this sounds. I don't care how trustworthy a person is. No husband in his right mind would go for something like that. Look at it from my side. What would you do if I asked the same question of you? She thought for a second, then answered, well, just like you, I wouldn't like it. I'd wonder why you couldn't tell me what you'd be doing, but I would figure whatever it was, it must be very important to you, or you wouldn't ask. I'd also know that you love me very much and would never do anything to hurt me, so yes, I would trust you. Ken sat down on one of the kitchen chairs with a sigh. He should have known better than to ask that. He walked right into it. How long would you be gone? He asked. I have to leave Friday. I'd be gone before you got home from work, and I'd be back Sunday afternoon, she replied. You're talking about this Friday, right? How long have you been planning this? I didn't really plan it. It was something that just, well, an opportunity that popped up, she replied. An opportunity? And you can't tell me anything about this opportunity. Where you're going, who you'll be with, nothing? Jennifer slowly shook her head. I'm sorry, dear. I just can't say. What if I say no? I don't trust you to simply go away for 2 days without telling me where you're going or what you'll be doing. Would you still go? She stared at him for a second. I really don't know. But whether I win or not, I would be extremely disappointed in your lack of trust in me. I don't know, he said softly as he pondered his dilemma. I really don't know. I guess I just don't understand why you can't tell me where you're going. If I let you do this, I'm going to be wondering about it for a long time. Maybe years. I don't think that's fair, Jen. Do you? He looked over at his lovely wife. Clearly, she looked anxious. I'm sorry, honey. If I could tell you, I would. But I just can't. Please trust me, she asked again. They stared at one another for a few more seconds, then she informed him she was going upstairs to read for a while before going to bed and asked that he give it some serious thought. He did. For the next 2 hours, Ken ran through every scenario, every plausible situation he could think of, but he was getting nowhere. He always came back around to the most obvious explanation. She was going to be with another man. Just the thought made his blood run cold. Damn it, he mumbled to himself. I sure wish I knew what this was all about. The more he thought about Jennifer spending the weekend with another man, the more it didn't make much sense. They'd had a happy marriage. They both had been true to one another. He was positive of it. No, he thought, it must be something else. She wouldn't cheat. She knows damn well it would be the end of our marriage. She wouldn't take that chance. Could it possibly be some kind of test? He wondered. But that would be out of character for her as well. It just didn't make sense. He was getting tired and worn out. Hell, maybe she'll wake up in the morning and tell me it was all just a joke. Don't I wish? He thought. But he knew her better than that. No, whatever was going on, she was serious. By the time Ken got to bed, his wife was already asleep. He still hadn't made up his mind what he was going to do. He lay down and stared up at the ceiling, still trying to come up with a reasonable justification for his wife's mysterious request. He finally drifted off to a fitful sleep with the question still looming. The next morning, he hadn't quite awakened yet. He was still in a kind of dream world. He didn't remember hearing the alarm yet, but whatever was causing the sensation he was feeling in his groin was better than any alarm. He forced his eyes open, lifted his head from the pillow, and watched the top of his wife's head, giving him B-job. He opened his eyes just wide enough to peek down again, this time to his wife's smiling face. She leaned forward, placing her hands on his chest for support while she rocked to and fro on his welcomed kitty invader. "Oh God," she cried. Jennifer collapsed on top of him and lay while they both wrestled for control of their breathing. "It's been a while since I've been wakened by such a beautiful alarm clock," he said. "Too long," she replied, still trying to catch her breath. "Would this have anything to do with our talk last night?" he asked. "Well, I was kind of hoping it would buy me some brownie points," she replied with sly grin. The expression on Ken's face turned from sheer ecstasy to annoyance. Her thoughtless confession had just turned a wonderful moment of passion into no more than a ploy to get what she wanted, a bribe. "If she thinks she can buy my trust with sex, she's sadly mistaken," he thought. Without another word, he gently nudged her from on top of him, swung his legs over the side of the bed, and headed for the shower. Jen could feel his uneasiness and realized her mistake in admitting to her attempted manipulation. Her little plan was coming apart at the seams, and she began to ponder his question of the previous evening. If he says no, will she go anyway? She really couldn't answer that. She just prayed she wouldn't have to make that decision. She put on her robe and wandered down to the kitchen. By the time Ken appeared, breakfast was being served with a smile and a kiss on the cheek. She was really laying it on thick, he thought. Actually, it was all for nothing. He'd made up his mind in the shower. He just hoped he would not regret it. "I don't imagine you've changed your mind from last night?" he asked. "No, honey," she responded, shaking her head. "This is something I have to do." "Well, I've decided to let you go and not ask questions." "Oh, honey, thank you." He held up his hand to cut her off. "But I want you to know you've hurt me, Jen. You ask me to trust you, but you don't trust me enough to confide in me. Instead, you use sex as a tactic to try and persuade me. It appears this trust thing is very one-sided." "Honey, it's not that I don't trust you." "Oh, what is it then?" "If it's not a lack of trust, then I can only think you're going to do something that you're not very proud of." She just lowered her eyes. She didn't have an answer. "If this is so all-fired important that you're going to go ahead, even though you know you are causing me pain, then you go. But I'll tell you right now, if I ever find out you did this to be with another man, that trust will be irrevocably broken along with our marriage, understand?" She meekly nodded her head. "I don't mean to hurt you, honey. Honest. I wish I didn't have to do this, but like I said, it's important to me. Please don't be hurt." He didn't respond. In fact, no more was said about it at the breakfast table at all. They kissed when it was time for him to leave for work, but Jen could feel the lack of passion from his lips. She hoped he would feel better when he got home later that night. All day long, Jen was having trouble with her inner demons. She wasn't kidding when she told Ken her weekend trip was very important to her, but it was also killing her to know she was hurting the man she loved. All morning, her stomach was tied in knots. It was midday by the time she came to a final conclusion. This was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. She would never have this opportunity again. She didn't want to spend the rest of her years saying, "I wonder," or "what if," so she would make it up to her wonderful husband if it took the rest of her life. But she was going through with her plans. In spite of her many attempts to brighten the atmosphere that night, Ken was definitely on the quiet side. He hoped by displaying his feelings of dismay she would change her mind. He wondered if she would try to bribe him again by initiating sex once they were in bed. If she did, he would turn her down, but she knew he would consider it another attempted bribe and didn't. He was reserved again the next morning at breakfast, again hoping his attitude would dissuade her, but that afternoon she called him at work to let him know she was leaving. "I love you," was the last thing she said before he hung up without responding. "Hey, old buddy, Arnie can't make it Sunday." Ken was lost in his thoughts. He had still maintained hope that his wife would change her mind at the last minute, but it didn't look like that was going to happen. "Huh, I'm sorry, Jack, what did you say?" he asked his longtime friend and co-worker. "Arnie, he can't make it on Sunday," Jack repeated. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." Ken responded while forcing himself back to the land of the living. Arnie can't make it? Shit, where are we going to find a fourth this late? Well, I was going to ask you if you knew of anyone who might be available, but I'm guessing the answer is no. I'll call the pro shop and let them know we're one short. I'm sure they can find a single to fill in, Jack said, still looking at his friend a little suspiciously. Are you sure you're all right, old buddy? Yeah, it's... He stopped and stared at the second-best golfer in their foursome. Ken never was one to unload his troubles on someone else, not even a good friend like Jack. Yeah, I'm okay. I just have a few things on my mind, that's all. Okay, if you say so. If there's anything I can do, just let me know. Will do, Ken replied, nodding his head and trying to look nonchalant. The rest of the day was a complete waste of time as far as work was concerned. All he could think about was his wife's refusal to say where she was going or what she would be doing for the next 2 days. He fought back tears as images of his Jin having sex with another man flashed through his mind over and over. The more it happened, the more he denied it. That's not what this is all about, he kept telling himself. I know she won't cheat on me. Damn it, he thought. This is torture. It's mental cruelty. How can she do this to me? Why would she do this to me? Will I ever know what it was all about? He wondered. Not knowing was worse than knowing if she really was with some guy. He felt lost, helpless, and hurt. But above all, he felt anger. And it was the anger that was slowly becoming his motivating force. The more he gave in to his feelings of anger, the less he felt lost and helpless. He was going to make her pay. Oh, how he was going to make her pay. What's that old song? You only hurt the ones you love. Yeah, well, he thought, two can play at that game. He didn't lose his love for her, but he wanted to hurt her like she did him. He wanted her to know the agony she was putting him through, and damn it, he was going to do just that. He started making plans. As soon as he got home, he would move all her things into the guest bedroom. If she thought he was giving her the silent treatment before, just wait, he schemed. He was going to make her sorry she was ever born. On the way home, Ken stopped for dinner. After all, he had all weekend to work on Operation Payback. Good evening. Can I get you something to drink? Asked the pretty waitress as she handed him a menu. Coffee, please, he responded. As Ken opened the menu, just looking at it made his stomach queasy. He was so busy working up his anger, he hadn't been aware of his anxiety until then. His hand shook slightly as he reached for the glass of water on the counter. Again his mind started to wander, and always to the darkest thoughts of an adulterous affair between his wife and another man. How we doing? The cheery voice asked. Have you decided yet? Ken heard the waitress' voice but had no idea what she said. He was too engrossed in his thoughts. Huh, what? He asked, looking up. Have you decided what you want to eat? She repeated, almost as if talking to a child. I'm just going to have the coffee, he told her, handing the menu back. Ken sat sipping coffee and stewing in his glum thoughts. At one point, tears tried working their way back into his depression, but he successfully fought them off for the second time that day. It was almost nightfall by the time Ken pulled into his driveway. Even though he knew it wouldn't be so, somewhere in the recesses of his subconscious, he held on to the slightest optimistic thought that she would be home, waiting for him with open arms and a big kiss. One glance at the gloomy residence, though, and the last of his smallest hopes were destroyed. Once again his ire rose and took over his emotions as he walked into the lonely house. Angrily he looked around. It was as if all the anxiety he felt during the day had suddenly come to a head. He needed to lash out, and the lamp sitting on the table in the front hall was his unfortunate victim. Seething with rage, he flung it across the room, ripping its cord from the socket and hitting the corner of his favorite painting. The blow knocked it to the floor with a crash as splinters of glass exploded from the frame and mixed with the shards of broken lamp. Now driven by wrath, he charged up the stairs to their bedroom. Without hesitation, he grabbed her clothes from the closet and marched them into the guest room. It took a number of trips, with Ken carrying several hangers in each hand before all female contents of the closet had been unceremoniously sprawled over the guest bed. Returning to the bedroom, he didn't bother removing anything from her drawer of lingerie. He simply yanked the entire drawer from the dresser and dropped it on the floor of his wife's new quarters. He was pissed, and he was going to make damn sure she knew it. Later that night, while tossing and turning in an unsuccessful attempt at sleep, He thought of something he hadn't thought of until then. What if this was all for him? What if she couldn't tell him anything because she was coming home with some kind of major surprise for him? Damn, would he feel like a moron? Ken rolled over and looked at the clock. It was 2 in the morning. It had been a very strenuous day. His whole body felt like a wet wash rag, but he still couldn't get to sleep, not with all the turmoil going on in his brain. He rolled on his side, and for the first time since it all began, before he even realized it, a tear wandered to the corner of his eye, then slowly ran down his cheek to the cotton pillowcase below. The thought that his wife's mysterious trip could be for his benefit only served to confuse him more. Never could he remember being so conflicted with emotions. They were tearing him apart. Ken tossed the sheet from his naked body and slowly sat up on the edge of the bed, wiping the salty track of agony from his face. Giving up all hope for getting any sleep, he made his way to the kitchen and a fresh pot of coffee. Damn her, he mumbled out loud to himself. Damn her all to hell anyway. Ken sat, and for the umpteenth time, went over their conversation. She said it was important to her, he said, talking to himself again. Why would she say that if she was doing something for me? No, I'm pretty sure whatever she's doing it for herself, not me. Sometime during his second cup of Colombian nectar, he decided he was going ahead with his plan. He doubted it very much, but even if she did come home with some kind of surprise for him, it made no difference. She deserved to experience a little of the hell she'd put him through, he rationalized. Once he'd made up his mind, he was ready to try for some sleep again. It was getting light outside by the time he finally conked out. Saturday, Ken started putting his plan into action. The first thing he did was to drive down to the hardware store and buy a key lock for the bedroom door. From now on, that door will stay locked until he decides otherwise. In the afternoon, he went to the driving range to get in some practice with his irons. He was hoping it would take his mind off of things and help relax him, but it did nothing for his anxiety or his swing. In fact, his inability to hit a single good shot out of an entire bucket of balls only added to his frustration. On his way back, Ken stopped at the pizza place a few blocks from his house and ordered a small pizza to go. He didn't feel like cooking, and Jennifer was always watching her weight. So seldom was he able to enjoy his favorite junk food. It was a long, lonely night. He thought his plans for reprisal would give him more satisfaction, but they really didn't. A profound sadness swept over him as he wondered where all this would lead. Divorce? I wonder if she knows, he contemplated. Does she have any inkling how precarious our relationship is right now? Once again, he prayed he would not find out his lovely wife was with another man, for that would certainly clinch it. There was just no way their marriage could survive a cheating like that. He would not stand for infidelity. He shook his head in doubt as he wandered into the bedroom for another stab at getting some rest. After another restless night, Ken found it hard to get going Sunday morning. Even after a nice hot shower, his feet felt as heavy as his heart. After breakfast, he tossed his clubs in the trunk of his car, along with an overnight bag. He hung a suit up in the back, then went back inside the house and locked the bedroom door. "Hey, old buddy," called an enthusiastic Jack from a golf cart headed his way. "Damn, man, you still look glum. Are you sure you're okay?" he asked, pulling up behind Ken's car to transfer his clubs to the cart. "Ah, Jen and I are having a little spat, that's all. Nothing earth-shattering," replied Ken as he strapped his clubs to the back of the golf course vehicle. Jack looked inside the trunk before shutting the lid, then saw the suit hanging up in the back. "Are you moving out?" he asked suspiciously. "No, not really, just taking an overnight sabbatical." "Come on," he insisted, not wanting to talk about it anymore. "Did they come up with a fourth man?" "Well, yes and no." "What do you mean, yes and no?" "Either they did or they didn't." "Well, they came up with a fourth person," responded Jack. Ken looked at him for a second while considering his friend's words. "Oh no, the fourth man is a woman?" "Yup, her name is Tara, but the pro says she shoots in the low 80s, so you'd better have your game ready, old buddy. I'd hate to have to tell everyone at work how you were beaten by a lady." Jennifer was putting her suitcase in the car. She would have never thought it possible, but fate had sanctioned her to experience a longing that started when she was still in school. But at what cost? She was aware of her husband's lack of response when she told him she loved him over the phone, but the anticipation of the weekend tempered her fearful thoughts with excitement. Now that it was over, she was left with only the fear. She hadn't had breakfast and was planning to stop for something, but decided she had to get home. She wanted to be there for him when Ken returned from the golf course. She wanted to start making things up to him immediately. Her heart started to pound with anxiety as she pressed a little harder on the gas pedal. By the time she pulled into the drive, she had the entire evening worked out in her head. There were 2 Cornish hens in the freezer she could thaw quickly in warm water. She knew they also had at least 1 bottle of her husband's favorite white wine to go with them. While dinner was in the rotisserie, she would put on her sexiest lingerie, his favorite, the black corset with garter straps to hold the black thigh-high stockings. Just seeing her in that outfit always got him worked up. After dinner, she would make him a present of her behind. She'd always refused him before. No one had ever screwed her from behind before, not even Ken. Yup, she thought, I will leave no doubt in his mind that he is my one and only lover. By the time I'm done with him tonight, he'll be well on the way to forgiving me, and never again will there be any more secrets. I will treat him like a king, because that's what he is. In spite of the 80-some degrees outside, she caught a chill as she walked into the house. Something had changed. Their home always seemed so warm and inviting, but for some reason it felt different, lonely and cold. She put her overnight case down and noticed the lamp was missing from the table. Jennifer looked around and saw Ken's favorite painting was also missing. Her eyes followed the scratch on the wall down to the broken fragments of both missing pieces. She gasped and brought her hand quickly to her mouth. Her anxiety worsened as she realized Ken must have thrown the lamp against the wall and hit the painting. "My God, what have I done?" she whispered. Rarely did Ken lose his temper, and never had she seen him enraged to the point of throwing something. She started to tremble as she began to understand the hurt with which she had inflicted on her loving husband. Not more than 3 hours prior, she had been okay with her decision. Now she was racked with guilt. Tears leaked from her eyes as Jennifer walked over and carefully knelt down to examine the expensive watercolor. The painting itself was not harmed, but it would have to be reframed. She would do that on Monday and surprise him when he came home after work. She cautiously picked up and threw out as much of the glass and broken pieces of lamp as she could, then vacuumed up the rest. She checked the time. It was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She knew he'd be coming home soon, and she hadn't even started thawing the birds out yet. Suppressing her emotions temporarily, Jen took a deep breath and headed for the kitchen. She was determined to start her penance with his favorite dinner and a romantic evening at home. As soon as she had the hens sitting in the warm water, Jennifer walked back out to the hall, picked up her suitcase, and climbed the stairs. She was looking forward to relaxing in a tube of her favorite bath oil, the one that drove Ken crazy with desire from its seductive scent. As she turned at the top of the stairs, Jen was surprised to see their bedroom door closed. She noticed the lock about the same time she tried the knob, but for a second her brain couldn't conceive why the door wouldn't open. Then it hit her. "Oh my God," she thought. "He's locked me out of our bedroom." But she turned and saw her clothes lying on the bed in the guest room. Jen could feel the panic building in her chest as she slowly, nervously walked into the room that had previously been reserved for the occasional overnight company. She sat heavily on the edge of the bed and stared down at the drawer full of her innerwears sitting on the floor. "It's not even here," she thought. The corset she was going to wear was in another drawer, and she couldn't even get in their room to get it. Her mind flashed backwards to all the events that should have prepared her. The broken lamp, his refusal to say he loved her during her last phone call, the look on his face when she answered his question about the bee job. All the signs were there. She'd just done a rotten job of reading them. It was as if she'd been hit with an avalanche of guilt, shame, and remorse. She buried her face in her hands and burst out crying hysterically. "Oh God, I hope I haven't ruined my marriage," she shrieked aloud. The distraught woman slumped over on the guest bed. Her entire body was racked with fright as tears flowed spontaneously down her cheeks. She knew he was hurt, he told her, but she had no idea how deeply he was hurt or the height of his anger. She lay sobbing as her mind scoured through a dozen different ways to show him how sorry she was. Finally, her tears exhausted, Jen gradually came back to reality. She looked at the clock. She was so preoccupied with her penance, time had slipped away from her. She was shocked to see she had wasted an hour, crying. Where is he? She wondered. He should be home by now. She felt listless. Her whole body was void of energy, but believing she was running out of time. Jennifer dried the tears from her face and dragged herself into the kitchen to start dinner. After seasoning the hens, she stuck them in the rotisserie and set the dining room table, complete with candles. She glanced at the clock. It was after 4. Where was he? He was never this late getting home from golf. Then a terrible thought occurred to her. What if he locked the bedroom door to hide the fact that his clothes were gone? What if he'd left her? Oh God, she uttered. No, he wouldn't do that. Not without telling me. No, he couldn't do that. Her entire body started to tremble. She was starting to panic for the second time since coming home. She sat on the couch in the living room and started to cry again, but kept telling herself that her loving husband would never leave her. Not like this, not without confronting her first. It took her only a few minutes to convince herself that Ken was probably sitting around drinking beer with his friends and would still be home shortly. Okay, she thought, I can't wear my corset, but there's some pretty sexy lingerie in that drawer I can wear. With a new resolve and determination to make things right, Ken's pretty wife ran up the stairs and took a shower. She paid no attention at the dwindling time as she made herself pretty, first with makeup, then with the prettiest lingerie she could find. She threw on a robe and returned to the kitchen just in time to remove the Cornish hens and set the table. Refusing to believe he wouldn't be walking in at any second, she lit the candles and took her place alongside her husband's chair. A tear rolled down her smooth cheek as she sat alone and listened to the grandfather clock in the living room sound 6 times. Jennifer had never felt as lonely as she did at that moment. She had to accept the fact that the romantic evening she had planned was not going to happen. She had avoided calling him. She was hoping to surprise him, but now she felt as if she had no choice. Jen took a deep breath and forced herself to pick up the phone. She was terrified of what her husband might tell her. Her hands shook as she touched the familiar numbers. Ken was just getting ready to walk across the street to the local Denny's for dinner when his phone rang. He looked and saw it was his house phone. He sighed. He knew it was coming. In fact, he was surprised it took her so long. Hello, Ken answered with no emotion in his voice. Honey, he heard his wife say softly from the other end. This is Ken, he responded curtly. Jen's heart sunk even deeper at his reply, but she wasn't going to react. I just wondered when. I made Cornish hens for dinner, honey. I wondered when you'll be home. Good question. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. I'm not sure. Oh, honey, please come home. I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. Please let me make it up to you, please. Make it up to me? And just how are you going to do that, Jen? How are you going to erase the doubts and suspicions that I've been wrestling with all weekend? I've tried coming up with every possibility I can think of for why you can't tell me where you were, and it always comes back to one thing. You were with another man. It's the only thing that makes sense, Jen. It's the only thing. Oh, my darling, please trust me. What I did had been a fantasy of mine since I was a young girl. It was something I had to do. I just can't tell you what it was. Please, darling, please come home. I will make it up to you, honest. I'll do whatever it takes, honey. Please? He heard her break down and start to cry. He still had no proof she was with someone, and hearing her sob was tugging at his heartstrings, but he was determined to give her some of her own medicine. I might be home tomorrow after work, he stated emphatically. Honey, won't you please come home now, please? No, I can't. Okay, she mumbled between sobs. May I ask where you are? No, if I don't need to know where you were, you don't need to know where I am or who I'm with. Jen didn't think she could feel any worse, but hearing Ken say those last 4 words almost caused her to throw up. She fought to keep it from happening and had to swallow before she could speak again. Ken, are you with a woman? Oh, honey, please don't do this. I didn't say I was with a woman, but if I can't ask questions, neither can you. Ken, that's not fair. You agreed. You agreed not to ask questions. You said I could go. Please come home and let's forget all about the weekend. Jen, listen to me. I went through absolute hell wondering if you were in the arms of another man. I can't ever remember being so angry or so hurt in my life. It's going to take a hell of a long time before I forget it. In the meantime, I don't want you trying to make up for it. I don't want you sleeping with me. I don't even want you around me any more than necessary. That's why I locked the bedroom door. Until I say different, you can sleep in the guest room." Ken could hear Jennifer crying as he disconnected. He was still conflicted with emotions. Why did she have to pull a stunt like this? He asked himself. It was so unlike her. Could her weekend really have been about something innocent? He was going to feel like a real heel if that turned out to be the case. It was that thought that kept him up for the 5th night in a row. All right, I want the truth. Damn it. What's the hell's going on between you and Jennifer? Jack asked as he walked into Ken's office, closing the door behind him. Ken looked up from the paperwork he'd been unconsciously staring at for the last half hour. Jack walked over and sat in one of the chairs across the desk from his friend and looked him in the eye. "First, I see an overnight bag in your trunk, a suit hanging up in your car, and then you play the worst game of golf I've ever seen you play. Not only did Tara beat you, but I beat you and Smitty came within 2 strokes. Something's drastically wrong, old buddy, and it's obviously not doing you any good to keep it bottled up inside, so spill it." As uncomfortable as he was, maybe Jack was right. Maybe he needed to get it off his chest. "Jack, do you trust your wife?" "Marge? Of course I do. What if she said she was going away for the weekend and she didn't want you to ask where she was going, what she'd be doing, or who she'd be with?" "I'd know immediately where she was," Jack responded. "You would? Where?" "Her brother's house. She knows I can't stand the bum," Jack said with a smile. "Come on, Jack, this is serious. That's exactly what Jennifer hit me with the other night. She wanted my blessing to go away for the weekend, but didn't want me to ask where she was going or what she'd be doing. She has a brother too, but he's a great guy with a wife and kids. No, there's only one reason I can think of for all the secrecy. She was with another man." "Oh, Ken, no way. There's no way Jen would cheat on you. Come on, you know better than that." "Really, do I? Okay then, tell me, what else could it be? Can you think of another reason why she'd go away like that? Because I sure as hell can't." "Did she say anything? Give you any clues whatsoever?" "All she'd say was that it was something she had to do. It was supposed to be about some fantasy from her childhood. And that sounds like she was with another man to you? How many little girls do you know who have a fantasy about screwing some guy? It's probably something embarrassing, and she just doesn't want to tell you. That's all." Ken looked down and thought, but spoke almost immediately. "I can't believe something from her childhood would be so important that she'd go ahead and do it knowing how much it would hurt me." "Okay," Jack said. "If she was going to be with a guy, why wouldn't she just lie and tell you she had to go visit a sick friend or something? I mean, if you're going to cheat on your spouse, wouldn't it be better to avoid suspicion and make up some excuse for going away?" Ken had to admit, Jack was making sense. He'd thought of that himself and couldn't figure out why she wouldn't just come up with a good lie. Jack continued, "Look, my friend, we've all known each other for many years. Your wife and mine are the best of friends. If Jen was cheating on you, Marge would know it. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. Just like there's no doubt that Marge could never keep it from me. And as far as I know, Jen has never even looked at another man? No, whatever she's up to, I'm sure it's not adultery." "I don't know," said Ken, still with some skepticism in his voice. "Maybe you're right. I sure hope so, because if I ever find out she was screwing some other guy, it would be curtains for our marriage. Come on, man. Jen loves you to death. I'm telling you, there's no way Jen was out screwing around. She wouldn't do that to you." Jack stood and started to leave. As he grabbed the doorknob, he looked at Ken once more. "Go home, man. Go home and make love to your pretty wife. Forget all about the weekend. Whatever she did, she's simply too embarrassed to tell you about it. That's all. Oh, I meant to tell you. Our 4th man said she had fun and hopes we'll call her again to play with us. What do you think?" "Yeah, sure. She'll probably change her mind when I whip her bum the next time, though. I played lousy yesterday, but there's no way she can beat my regular game," Ken said with knowing smile. "Okay, my friend. I'm going to hold you to that. See you later." He hesitated just before walking out. "You know some women are into that." "Into what?" "Whipping their bum," he said with a chuckle. As the day dragged on, Jack's words kept playing over and over in Ken's mind. He loved his wife. He wanted to believe it was just as his friend said. She was simply too embarrassed over something to tell him about it. The screen door hissed as it closed behind him. Ken put his briefcase down, then climbed the stairs to change out of his suit and into some comfortable clothes. He hadn't seen nor heard his wife until he came back down into the living room. She was sitting on the couch. Tracks from her tears were very prominently displayed down her cheeks. She had a wet, dirty tissue rolled up in her fingers, and her hands shook despite resting in her lap. Her voice was weak and hoarse from sobbing. "Don't," she sniffled while still looking down. "Don't you love me anymore?" she asked in fear of his answer. "Jin, if I didn't love you anymore, your clothes would be in the front lawn instead of the other bedroom." She finally looked at him, and for the first time he could see how red and puffy her eyes were. I'm so sorry, honey," she cried. "I'm so sorry I hurt you like I did. I didn't realize. I didn't know. Oh, honey, please forgive me," she begged before bringing the dirty hanky up to her nose and starting to cry again. "Jennifer, as long as you..." She anticipated his statement. In her anxiety, she didn't even let him finish. "Oh, Kin, please. It had nothing to do with sleeping with another man," she blurted out. "Nothing, honey. Please believe me, I did not screw anyone." Her emotional declaration took him by surprise. "Then why? Why would you put me through hell all weekend like that? Damn it, Jin, I don't get it. Why didn't you tell me that before you left? You had to know what I was thinking. Do you know the kind of pain I went through picturing you in the arms of another man? Why would you leave letting me think that if it wasn't true? Hell, Jin, how am I even supposed to believe you now? After the fact? Oh, honey, please, I'm telling you the truth," she cried. "Honest, Kin, you have to believe me." Kin stood and stared at his wife while her words soaked in. She sure sounded sincere. "Jin, I just don't know. Honey, please believe me. I didn't say anything before I left because I didn't want you asking a lot of questions, and I thought the best way to avoid that was to simply not say anything at all. To tell you the truth, it wasn't nearly as exciting as I thought it would be. The fantasy was much better than the reality, but it was something I had to do. Something? Yeah, I know," Kin said, snidely cutting her off. "Something you've wanted to do since you were a little girl. You told me. That's one of the things that hurts so bad, Jin. You excluded me from something that was important to you. We've been an integral part of one another's lives for the last 8 years. I've always included you in my life, and it hurt to think that you didn't feel the same way. Then I wondered if this just the first step? What else would you exclude me from?" "I know," she sobbed. So sorry, honey. I didn't think about it like that. It was thoughtless of me. I had no idea this would hurt you so badly. Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, I didn't know it would either. It bothered me when I said you could go, but I was hoping you'd change your mind. Then when you actually left, well, the idea of you excluding me from an important part of your life was bad enough. But the thought of you meeting some lover from your past just festered like an open sore. I tried telling myself you wouldn't do that. There was just no way you would cheat on me, but as much as I tried, I just couldn't come up with any other reason for your behavior." She lowered her eyes. I guess I thought you trusted me more than you do," she said meekly. "Jin, trust is one thing, but what you pulled over the weekend goes way beyond trust. It's more like blind faith or something. I don't know. What was it that Reagan said? Trust but verify. Well, I have no way to verify." Jennifer just sat sobbing even more heavily. Ken was still pissed, but his wife's statement about not being with another man gave him a certain amount of relief. He also wasn't made of stone. It wasn't a stranger sitting there crying her heart out. It was the woman he loved. Ken walked over, sat beside her, and put his arm around her trembling body. Jin immediately buried her face into his chest and put her arms around him. "All right, take it easy," he said while gently rubbing her shoulder. "As far as I know, you haven't done anything wrong, but I still need some time to come to terms with all of this." He could feel her head nodding into his chest, showing she understood, but offering no more in the way of an explanation. "I still think it's better if we sleep in different rooms for the time being." That brought on a big sob, and she tightened her grip around his waist. "Oh, please, please don't make me sleep without you again." "I'm sorry, Jin," he said, "but that's the way it has to be, at least for a while." They sat holding each other a little longer before Jennifer had to dish up supper. She looked like a whipped dog with her tail between her legs for the rest of the evening. It wasn't an act, it was exactly how she felt. That night, As Ken heard his bride of 8 years quietly weeping from the guest bedroom, he wondered how long he'd be able to hold out. He was already missing her lying beside him. "So, how'd it go yesterday?" asked Jack as he sat in the same chair as the day before. Well, better than I had expected. She at least told me she wasn't out screwing anybody." "You believe her?" "I don't know. I'd sure as hell like to." "Why don't you?" Ken asked his rather smug-looking friend. "Of course, I was the one who told you she wouldn't cheat in the first place, remember? So, everything's back to normal then?" "Well, I wouldn't exactly say that. I'm still pissed. I'm making her sleep in the guest room for a while to give me some time to cool off," said Ken. "I guess I can understand that. To tell you the truth, if Marge had pulled something like that, she'd be sleeping there too. When I got home last night, I asked her if she knew anything about Jen's mysterious weekend trip. She said she thought it might have something to do with when she was in high school, something she never got a chance to do." "Something or some guy?" Ken asked curtly. No, something," Jack replied with a cautious smile. "I guess Jen never really came out and said what it was, but Marge is sure it had nothing to do with screwing some guy. She doesn't believe Jen would cheat on you any more than I do." "Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus," Ken replied, leaning back in his chair, daring a small, gratifying smile. "To tell you the truth, I really don't think she would either. I guess I'm going to take your advice and just try to forget about it. In spite of all the thoughts I had over the weekend, I just don't see her cheating on me." "Okay then," Jack said as he shifted his posture and leaned forward. "Not to change the subject, but I got a call from Arnie's wife, and he's not going to make it next Sunday for golf again." "Again?" responded Ken with a surprised look. "Is something wrong? It's not like him to miss 2 weeks in a row. I guess his back is bothering him. Linda said he wasn't able to go to work all week. He has an appointment with the doc on Thursday. Hell, I hope it's nothing serious." "Yeah, me too. Listen, now that you have your head out of your bum, you want another crack at Tara? I was thinking of calling her to see if she can fill in again. You really seem to like her, Jack. You sure you two aren't having an affair of your own?" teased Ken. "Me," Jack countered. "You're the one she flirted with for 18 holes." "Yeah, right. She was just trying to keep me distracted so she could beat me. She's in for a rude awakening this time." Jack broke into a big grin. You can't tell me you didn't notice that sexy little waggle she does before hitting the ball." "You mean how she wiggles that pretty little bum," joked Ken. "I'm not dead, old buddy. Of course I noticed. It won't be enough to save her from the jaws of defeat, though. Not this time." "Yeah, well, we'll see. I've got a feeling she hasn't even started to turn on the real charm yet." Ken felt better after Jack left his office. He made an effort to separate himself from any jealous or insecure thoughts and tried looking at the situation from a completely impartial standpoint. In 8 years of marriage, he never even saw his wife so much as flirt with another man. Their sex life was good, and she always seemed to be satisfied. Certainly, anyone who knew her was adamant about her love and loyalty to him. No, if he weighed the pros and cons, the circumstantial evidence was heavily in her favor. "Okay," he said to himself, "if I keep going back and forth like this, I'm going to drive myself crazy. I gave her permission to go in the first place because I did trust her. It wasn't until she was actually gone when my overactive imagination kicked in and I decided she must be meeting another man. There's certainly no proof of that, and up until this weekend, I've never had cause to doubt her sincerity or her fidelity. As far as I know, she's never lied to me, so when she says she wasn't with another man, what justification do I have to call her a liar? None. Absolutely nada." Ken arose from his chair and walked to the window. The telecommunications company he worked for was located in a northwest suburb of Chicago. His office was on the 5th floor. From there, he could see the Hancock Center, Willis Tower, and most of downtown. Somehow the view always reminded him of what a lucky man he was. He could surmise how much misery and heartache there was down there. His parents made sure he was well educated. He had a great job that afforded him a comfortable lifestyle. He had a great wife who loved him and good friends. Yeah, he was a very lucky man. He also loved her. So without even acknowledging it, he was talking himself into forgiving her. Ken had made up his mind. He turned to walk back to his desk. It was over. Oh, he would always wonder what she did or didn't do, and he would always remember the torment he went through. But for now at least, No more incriminations. He would let his wife back into the bedroom and try to put it all behind them. A sense of relief came over him as he sat back down and looked at the work that had piled up on his desk during the last few days. He wanted things normal again. He was tired of guessing what she may or may not have done. He wanted his loving and loyal wife back. "Betty," he called to his secretary through the intercom. "Would you grab a couple of coffees and come in to help me prioritize some things, please?" "Sure, Ken," she answered. By the end of the day, Ken and Betty had everything caught up, and for the first time in almost a week, he was driving home in a good mood. Jennifer, of course completely unaware of her husband's change in attitude, had spent her time sinking further into depression. Her plans to make things up to her man were all but dashed upon the rocks of his anger and mistrust. How could she start making it up to him if he wouldn't even let her in bed with him? After doing the breakfast dishes and making the beds, Jen sat trying to come up with a way to show her husband how much she loved him when the phone rang. Her voice was still hoarse. "Hello." There was a short silence. "Boy, you sound terrible." "Hi, Marge," she continued, recognizing the voice of her good friend. "Yeah, I know. I've been under the weather lately." "Uh-huh. Would that have anything to do with your mysterious weekend?" "Yeah," she tried to chuckle. "You could say that. I'm guessing Ken discussed it with Jack and he told you, huh?" "Of course," chirped her friend. "Now what's this all about? Where the hell did you go? Did he have a big tool?" The last question instantly set Jen off. "Damn it, Marge. How dare you ask me that? There was no tool," she angrily replied. "I was not out screwing some guy." Okay, I am sorry. I was just kidding. I know you wouldn't cheat on Ken." "Sheesh, calm down. Now, where did you go?" "I can't tell you, Marge. I can't tell anyone. I'm sorry, but it has to stay my secret." Again, there was a short silence from the other end of the phone. "Jen, I'm your best friend. If you can't tell me, who can you tell?" "That's just it, Marge. I can't tell anyone." "Wow, I'm beginning to understand a little about how your husband feels." "Oh, Marge, please don't make me feel any worse than I already do. If I could tell you I would, I'd tell Ken, but I just can't. This is something I will take to my grave. I just can't tell anyone," she said, starting to cry again. Okay, honey, don't cry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry." "Did?" Jen sniffled a couple times before she could talk again. "Did Jack say anything to you about what Ken intends to do? Is he planning to divorce me?" "Oh, honey, I don't know, but I don't think so. Jack says Ken's awfully pissed, but he didn't say anything about divorcing you." "Oh, Marge, what'll I do if he does? I don't think I could go on without him." "Jen, don't even think about it. Ken loves you. I doubt very much if he's planning on divorcing you, not over something like this. You didn't really do anything wrong, did you?" Jen ignored the question. "You haven't seen him, Marge. I never saw him so angry. He threw the hall lamp against the wall and hit that painting he loves." "Oh shit, that doesn't sound good, hon," Marge responded, a little shocked. "I know. I've never known him to lose his temper like that before. The lamp was shattered beyond repair, but the painting was okay. Just the frame was broken. I took it and had it reframed. It's been hanging up since yesterday, but Ken didn't even notice it. Or if he did, he didn't say anything. He's even locked me out of our bedroom." "Yeah," interrupted her friend, "I heard." "Jen, I'm sure he'll calm down. Just give him some time." "God, Marge, I hope you're right. If I knew he was going to be this mad, I'd never have gone." "Yeah, well, don't ever do it again." "Are you kidding? Never? From now on, the only fantasy I have is to be the best wife a man could want. No more headaches or, I don't feel like it tonight. I just pray it's not too late. I'm not asking what you did, but tell me, after all this, was it at least worth it?" Jen hesitated, but then answered her friend. "No, not even close. I should have left the fantasy just that, a fantasy. It was disappointing and certainly nothing I'd ever do again. Yeah, I know. All I could think about coming home was how I would make it up to my loving husband. And then, she had to stop talking. She was starting to cry again. "Jen, I am so sorry. Hang in there, honey. Just do everything you can to assure Ken of how much you love him. I'm sure you guys will be okay." "Thanks, Marge." They talked a few more minutes, but in the end, Jen still had no idea if her marriage would survive. That night when Ken came home, he He broke his usual tradition of going right upstairs to change. He set his briefcase down in the hall and walked around the corner and into the living room. Jennifer was still in the kitchen cooking dinner and hadn't heard him come in. She became terrified when she heard him call her name. "Jen, would you come out here for a few minutes, please? I want to talk to you." She walked into the living room as if she was about to face a firing squad. She was still totally unaware of what her husband had in mind. Was this it? She wondered. Was this the end of her marriage? "Jen, sit down for a minute," he said, sitting down on the sofa and patting the seat next to him. "We need to talk." Tears started welling up in her eyes again as she cautiously took her seat. "Okay, there's no need for the tears," Ken said, looking at her. "I've decided to put this whole thing behind us." "Oh, darling," she burst out with joy. She threw her arms around his neck and pulled them together in a hug before he could say another word. She held on for dear life, almost choking him. "Oh, thank you, darling, thank you. I promise to make it up to you." Okay, he said, reaching back and prying her arms apart to catch his breath. "No, I don't want that. I don't want you going around here doing everything under the sun to try and make up for things. There's no way you can do that anyway. There's no way you can erase the torture I went through. I don't care what you do. It'll never go away. I'll never forget last weekend," he solemnly told her. "But I still love you with all my heart, and without proof that you did anything wrong, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt." "Oh, honey," she broke in again, kissing his face all over. "I promise I'll never do anything like that again." "You're damn right you won't," he interjected. "First off, I'll never give you permission like I so stupidly did before, and if you ever decide to do something like that again without my consent, I'll tell you right now, it'll be the end for us, hear me? I don't care how important it is to you. Don't even ask," he told her in a stern voice that left no doubt he meant what he said. Once again, she buried her head into his chest and surrounded him with her arms. "Oh, Ken, I love you so much. No, honey, I'll never ask for anything like that ever again, I swear." A small smile stretched across his face as he put his hand around her head and held her close to him. It felt good to accept her apology. It felt good to forgive her and let her back into his heart. She was almost afraid to ask, "Can I come back into our bedroom?" "Yeah, I'll give you a hand moving your things back after dinner," he said. "Right now I'm going upstairs to change." Jennifer watched the man she loved walk toward the stairs. Never could she remember being more relieved than she was at that moment. It was almost as if someone had just restarted her heart after it had been stopped for days. She didn't care what he said. She was still going to do everything in her power to make up for her secretive trip. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Ken still wasn't sure he wanted to make love to Jen yet. He knew what she wanted. He could feel her body throbbing with desire as she put her arm around his chest and nuzzled into him. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you so much." Ken turned his head and looked into her eyes. "I love you too, Jen. I'm just not sure I'm ready. Oh, please, please, darling. I need you to make love to me. I need to feel your passion. I need to know we're okay again. Please," she revealed as she leaned in and softly pressed her lips to his. He felt her tongue dancing with his own. The softness of her jugs gently rubbed against his chest. He reached around and grabbed a handful of her hair and pressed harder, turning her soft, sensuous kiss into one of fervency and lust. Ken's body reacted. She smiled as she looked into his eyes. "I love you so much," she confessed. Ken rolled over on top of her. He knew all the right buttons to push. He knew all the sensitive little places that sent fiery shock waves through her body. Jen's body tensed. Her first orgasm washed over her in waves, one running into the other. From somewhere in the distance, she heard the impassioned groans of her lover. She could feel his body tighten. He too was about to explode. It was a night of passion, of rekindling what both were afraid they had lost. Finally, Ken collapsed beside his wife and closed his eyes while trying to regain a normal breathing pattern. He felt his wife breathing just as hard as he was as she cuddled into him. The next day at work, everyone, including Jack, noticed the change in Ken's demeanor right away. "By that shit-eaten grin on your face, I'm guessing you patched things up with Jen?" "Yeah," Ken responded. "I took your advice, went home and made love to her. Thanks, old buddy. Jack smiled and slapped his friend on the back. See, I am good for something, he joked. You think she'll let you out of the house Saturday afternoon? I thought we'd go hit a couple baskets of balls. You need the practice? Oh, I need the practice, he responded with a laugh. Yeah, I'll meet you at the range at 2. Okay? I'll be there, Jack replied. For the rest of the week, everything seemed to go Ken's way. At home, Jen was more attentive than she'd ever been. He knew, in spite of his words, she was trying to make up for things. But what the hell? Who was he to deny her of that chance? Besides, he was liking it. His good fortune also carried over to the workplace. Out of nowhere, a prospective client who he had been trying to land for 2 years, all of a sudden signed one of the biggest contracts he'd ever seen. It would be worth almost $2 million a year to the company and a bonus for him. By the time he pulled up for Sunday's round of golf, Ken felt almost invincible. Well, look who showed up. Ready for another thrashing? Tara joked with a big grin. Already she's trying to get into my head, Ken thought. Well, it won't work this week. Young lady, I will have you begging for mercy before we're done with the front 9, he countered. And that's exactly what happened. By the time they approached the 10th tee, at just 2 over par, Ken was 4 strokes ahead of Tara and 8 strokes in front of Jack and Smitty. At the end of 18 holes, Ken was finding it hard not to gloat a little after thoroughly trouncing everyone with one of the best rounds of golf he'd ever played. As they made their way to the lounge, Tara announced that the beers were on her. I know when I'm outclassed, she said as they found a table. I humbly bow to the golf guru, she said with her hands pressed together in mock praying fashion and a bow of her head. Everyone laughed. Ken, that was one of the best rounds I've ever seen you play, said Jack. After all the make-up sex, I'm surprised you had the energy to hit the ball that far. Ken cringed a little. This was exactly the reason he didn't like discussing his problems with anyone. It always became public knowledge. Jack, not everyone needs to know about my married life, he said with a little sharpness to his tone. Sorry, replied Jack sheepishly. So that's what it takes, interjected Tara. Maybe that's what I should do, except since my divorce, I don't have anyone to have make-up sex with. The guys all looked at each other. Tara, you have to be kidding. With your looks and personality, I can't believe you don't have them knocking your door down, said Ken. Yeah, well, she said with a slight laugh. Between putting in 50 to 60 hours at work each week and 2 small kids at home, I'm lucky I can get out for a round of golf on Sundays. Smitty broke into the conversation. Hell, the way you play, I thought you spent all your time on the golf course. Where'd you learn to play like that? My ex is a pro, not tour quality, mind you, but he's the teaching pro at 7 Winds Country Club. Your ex is Tony Blakely? Ken asked. Yeah, you know him? Not well, but I've taken several lessons from him. Thanks, replied Tara with a small smile. You contributed to my divorce settlement. That got a chuckle from all. Then Ken changed the subject. Has anyone heard anything about Arnie? I tried calling yesterday, but didn't get any answer. I talked to Linda on Friday. He went in for an MRI and some blood tests last Thursday, but they won't have the results until tomorrow, Jack reported. Damn, said Smitty, rejoining the conversation. No offense, Tara, but we 4 have been playing together for many years. I sure hope he can play next week. Yeah, me too, responded Ken. Tara nodded her head, showing her support of their camaraderie. I understand, guys. She held her glass out in salute. Here's to Arnie. May he be here playing with you guys in good health next week. To Arnie, everyone said while clinking their glasses together. The next day, Jack wandered into Ken's office looking a little pale. Ken watched as he crossed the room and flopped down in his favorite chair. He just stared at the floor for a moment. Ken knew they were expecting news about their golf buddy, and from the look on his friend's face, it wasn't going to be good. Arnie? Ken asked. Jack nodded his head. It's cancer, he said. Arnie has a cancerous cyst at the base of his spine. They're going to operate day after tomorrow. Then he'll have to go through chemo and radiation. Linda's beside herself. She could hardly even talk over the phone. What's his prognosis? Is he going to make it? I don't know, Jack replied. Linda was so upset I didn't want to ask a lot of questions. Damn, what hospital is he in? Statewide, I think. Jack reran the conversation with Arnie's wife through his head until he remembered for sure. Yeah, statewide. I'm going to go up there after work. Want to join me? Absolutely, responded Ken. Did you call Smitty yet? He might want to meet us up there too. Good idea. I'll call him from my office. See you later, he said, standing up and heading for the door. Okay with you if I call Tara as well? I think it's pretty obvious that Arnie won't be playing anymore this year. Yeah, that's fine, Ken replied, obviously more concerned with his friend's health than who would be filling in for him. As soon as Jack left, Ken called his wife, explained the situation, and told her he'd be home late. Seeing his buddies walk in the room put a smile on Arnie's face, the first one in days. Linda, his wife, was in the room and warmly greeted the golfing trio. For the next 2 hours they talked and joked, even Linda laughed a couple times. As it came time to leave, they all expressed their confidence that he would be up and around in no time. It was 3 days after the operation by the time they all got to see him again. He looked like hell, and Ken wondered if he was going to make it through the night. His wife said the doctors gave him a good prognosis, but it was going to be a long, tough road. Every one of the guys saw how Linda stood by her man. The love she had for him shined through the grief. He was a lucky guy. The following Sunday, Tara was officially offered a regular spot with the foursome, or at least until Arnie was able to rejoin them. Secretly, they all wondered if he would ever be able to play again. Tara, although she hated the circumstances under which the proposal was made, was thrilled to accept it. Over the next few weeks, Tara became one of the guys and didn't miss a Sunday. They even teased her about playing in the upcoming cold weather. They were diehards and played well into November or until the snow flew, whichever came first. They call it playing with blue balls, Jack joked. You going to have the balls to join us when the temperature is in the 30s? Jack, I never miss an opportunity to beat your bum on the course. You know that, she said, razzying him right back. As time passed, their friend wasn't gaining much ground. Several times the guys would all get together and go over to his house for a visit. It had been weeks since the operation, but due to the chemo and radiation treatments, he was still too weak to go back to work. When Ken went home after his last visit, he told Jen how bad Linda looked. All this is taking a terrible toll on his wife. Jen really didn't know Linda very well. They had only met a few times, but Arnie was definitely a good friend of her husband's, and she thought she should do something. Honey, do you think she would accept some help? Maybe I can talk Marge into going over there with me and see if we can give her a hand with some of the shopping or maybe laundry, housework, something, anything that would free her up a little so she could spend more time with Arnie and maybe even get some rest. Honey, I think that's a great idea. I'm sure Linda would welcome the help, he said while wrapping his arms around her and kissing her forehead. She laid her head against his chest where she felt safe. She shuddered as her mind briefly wandered, putting herself in Linda's shoes. I love you, you know that, she asked. Ken squeezed her a little tighter. I know you do, he confirmed. The next day, after making the bed, cleaning the house, and getting 2 steaks out to marinate, Jen called her friend. Hello, Marge answered. Hi, Marge, how are you? Hey, girlfriend, I'm doing good. How about you? Things finally getting back to normal? To tell you the truth, I'm not sure they'll ever be back to normal. He's trying, but I hurt him bad. He tries to act like it doesn't bother him anymore, but I can tell he's still struggling whenever he thinks about that weekend. Sometimes it feels like he's holding back. Nothing major, just little things, like he'll go to say something then stops. Or I'll see him just sitting and staring into space with a real solemn look on his face. When I ask him if something's wrong, he'll say no, then get up and go into another room. Sometimes he's just not as loving in the bedroom as he used to be either. Well, hang in there, sweetie. You're right, he's been hurt and it's going to take time for him to forgive you completely, but it'll happen. Just give him some space, that's all. God, I hope so, Marge. I'm doing everything I can. I make sure the house is spotless. I cook his favorite meals, and I haven't said no to anything in the bedroom. I'm trying so hard. I know you are, honey. Maybe you're trying a little too hard. Are you doing it out of love or out of guilt? Jen wasn't prepared for that question. She couldn't even respond at first. After a moment of silence, Marge spoke again. Yeah, I'm here, she answered. I just had to think for a minute. Both, I guess. I don't know, to tell you the truth. I do feel guilty, terribly guilty for hurting him like that. Uh-huh, replied Marge. Maybe that's the problem. Ken's not dumb. Maybe he can sense that you're doing all that out of guilt. Inwardly, he probably figures, why would you feel so guilty if you did nothing wrong? But I did do something wrong. I hurt my husband. Maybe you should sit down with him and tell him that's why you've been going out of your way to make things up to him, because you feel guilty over hurting him, not for what you did when you were away. You know, you just might have something there. He told me not to go out of my way to try and make up for things. He told me, but I didn't listen. I would stop trying so hard, continued Marge. If you want things to go back to normal, you have to start acting normal. I'm sure Ken loves all the special attention, but I'll also bet it's a constant reminder. I really think you should just relax and let things go back the way they were before your little weekend excursion. Jen thought about what her friend said. It sounded like good advice. You're right, Marge. That makes a lot of sense, thanks. Starting tonight, I'm going to stop trying so hard to make things up to him and just be myself again. She was about to change the subject to some neighborhood gossip when she remembered the reason she called. Oh, Marge, do you know Linda Baskin? Her husband, Arnie, plays golf with Ken and Jack. Actually, I only met her twice, Marge responded. I'm sure you know Arnie has cancer. Man, that's got to be tough. Yeah, that's why I was calling. Ken's pretty shaken up over it. He says Linda could really use some help around the house. You know, cleaning, laundry, shopping, things like that. I was thinking that we could go over and help her out? Marge interjected. Yeah, what do you think? Absolutely, I think it's a great idea. Maybe what's her name? Smitty's wife would want to join us also. Yeah, what is her name? Jen said, pondering. Darlene, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. Funny, Jack hardly ever mentions Smitty anymore. All I ever hear about is Tara. If I didn't know better, I'd swear he was screwing her. Marge, that's a terrible thing to say. You should be ashamed of yourself. You know damn well Jack would never cheat on you. Oh, I know, but every damn week when he comes home, it's Tara this and Tara that. Every week? Jen asked, expressing a little shock. You mean she plays with him every week? Yeah, you didn't know that? She's taking Arnie's place until he's able to play again. Ken didn't tell you? No. Well, I knew she filled in a couple times, but I didn't know it was an ongoing thing. Yeah, she's been playing with the guys all summer. Have you ever seen her? Is she pretty? Jen's curiosity was piqued. Yes and yes. I saw her briefly when my car is in the shop, and I had to drop Jack off at the course last month. She was standing over by the driving range talking to Ken. She has long blonde hair and a body that won't quit. Pretty face too. Jack said she learned to play golf from her ex-husband. I guess he's a pro. He gives lessons at one of the courses around here somewhere. Anyway, I have to get going, honey. Jack will be coming home soon, and I don't even have dinner started yet. Did you want to see if Darlene wants to help us, or keep it just you and me? Jen's mind was wandering and didn't catch the last part of her friend's question right away. Huh? Oh, no. I think we should see if she wants to help. The more the merrier, Jen replied. I'll see if I can get their number from Ken tonight. I'll call her tomorrow and see what she says. The girls said their goodbyes and hung up. Without even realizing it, Jen was about to get a taste of what her husband went through. She went into the kitchen and poured herself a cup of coffee, then sat down at the table to mull over some of the things her friend had said about Tara. So she has an ex, huh? I wonder why Ken hasn't told me about her, she asked herself. She fought against any thoughts of infidelity, but she couldn't help feeling a small knot slowly forming in the pit of her stomach. Ken would never cheat on me? Then again, if he thought I cheated on him, no, he'd never do that. She tried pushing any notions of her husband with another woman from her mind and chastised herself for even considering such a thing. Even for a moment, she took another sip of coffee and thought back over the last couple of nights when her husband was not in the mood to have sex. How often has that happened in our 8.5 years of marriage, she asked herself, and he's been awfully quiet lately. Maybe I've been wrong about those faraway looks I've seen on his face. Maybe he wasn't thinking about that weekend at all. He was thinking about her, his 304 girlfriend. Stop. Stop it right now, she yelled to herself out loud. What the hell are you doing? There's absolutely no reason to think he's having an affair. Stop thinking like that. Jen did her best to occupy her mind with other thoughts, but it wasn't that easy. Later, as she and Ken sat eating dinner, she couldn't help but bring up the subject. I called Marge about going over to Linda and Arnie's and helping out. She's all for it. Good. I think that's great, honey. I know you and Marge don't really know them very well, so I think that's extremely generous of your guys, he said with a smile. Well, you've been playing golf with Arnie for several years. Maybe it's time I got to know them better. We thought we'd call Darlene and see if she'd like to go too. Ken's brow wrinkled. Darlene? Who's Darlene? Smitty's wife. Isn't that her name? Marlene. Her name is Marlene. That's okay, he chuckled. You were close. Well, I knew it was some kind of Lena, she said, joking back. Do you have their number? I'd like to call her tomorrow and see if she's interested in going with. Yeah, sure. It's in my address book on the computer. Their last name is Dennison. She replied. Okay, it's now or never, she thought. Marge told me that woman, Tara, has been playing every week with you guys. How come you never told me about her? What's there to tell? She's been filling in for Arnie. I'm pretty sure I did tell you. A while back you mentioned that the pro shop stuck you with a woman, but you never said she played every week with you guys. Marge said she's very pretty. Ken looked closer at this wife. He immediately recognized the look on her face. It was easy to spot. It was the same pain and uncertainty he saw in the mirror not so long ago. Instantly he wondered how he should play it. Should he string her along? Teach her a lesson? Almost as quickly as he thought about it, he decided against it. It would be petty. Yes, honey, Tara is very pretty. She also works long hours and has 2 small kids. She can barely find the time to play every Sunday. So if you're wondering if she and I have anything more in common than 18 holes of golf once a week, the answer is no. Oh, honey, you know better than that. The thought never crossed my mind, she said not too convincingly. Aha, sure, responded Ken. It was mid-November when Old Man Winter caught Chicago in its grip. The first good snowfall put an end to golf for the next 4 or 5 months. By the time the holidays came, Jen's mysterious weekend was a distant memory. She took her friend's advice and stopped trying so hard to be the perfect wife, but never let a day go by without reminding her husband of her love. In February, a cold snap hit the Midwest. Ken was still trying to warm up after returning from lunch when he heard his secretary's voice over the intercom. Ken, Mr. Spitzer wants to see you. Okay, Betty, thanks. Mr. Spitzer was the executive vice president of corporate sales and his boss, a nice guy but all business. Ken saw an uncharacteristic smile on his face as he was shown into the big man's office. Have a seat, Ken, he said, broadening his smile even more. Ken sat in one of the plush, leather chairs in front of the large oak desk. Ken, I don't know if you're aware of it, but you're having a hell of a year so far. You've already earned your quarterly bonus, and it's only February. Thanks, Mr. Spitzer. I wasn't aware of that, he humbly replied. Well, the firm would like to show its appreciation. I know you're an avid golfer, and seeing there's 6 inches of snow on the ground around here, I've arranged a little vacation for you at the company's expense, he said, sliding an envelope across his desk. Ken opened the envelope and looked in astonishment at its contents. Oh, wow, he exclaimed. A golf junket to Hilton Head. Yup, all expenses paid for you and 3 guests. I figured one of those guests would be Jack, and since it's a 3-day weekend thing, I've arranged for both you and him to take a Friday off. Just let me know what weekend you're going. Ken thanked his boss profusely. As soon as he returned to his own office, he called Jack in to give him the good news. Okay, Jack said eagerly. We gotta call Smitty and see when he can get a Friday off. As Ken reached for his cell phone, Jack brought his hand to his chin. Who else? He asked rhetorically. There's no way Arnie can make a trip like that yet. I guess we should ask Tara. What do you think? Yeah, I guess. Although she works such long hours, I doubt she'll be able to make it, Ken responded while still holding the phone. Yeah, but I still think we should call her. Ken hit Smitty's work number and told him about the junket. Much to their disappointment, Smitty said there was no way he could go. Neither Ken nor Jack could believe he would pass up the opportunity, but he had no vacation time or sick days available until later in the year, and he couldn't afford to take a day off without pay. Besides, he told them, we'd still have some expenses. This close after Christmas, I just can't afford it. If I went home and told Marlene I was taking time off to go play golf for 3 days, she'd kill me. Sorry, guys. Shit, Jack said after Ken disconnected. Now what? Ken started scrolling through his phone contacts. Well, I'm going to call Tara. We might as well see if she can go. And if she can't, I guess it'll just be the two of you's, old buddy." When she picked up the phone, Tara was surprised to hear Ken's voice. They hadn't spoken in almost 3 months, and she really didn't expect to hear from him for another month, at least. When he told her about the trip, she jumped at it. Unlike Smitty, she had a bunch of sick days piled up. She was pretty sure her ex would love to have the kids for a long weekend, but if he balked, her parents would babysit. When Ken told her Smitty couldn't make it, and it would be just the 3 of them, she had a suggestion. "Ken, would you mind playing with 2 women?" she asked. Well, it depends. Who's the other woman, and can she play?" "It's my sister, Laura. She lives in Atlanta, and yes, she can play almost as well as me. I'd have to call her and make sure she could go, but she's a big shot where she works. I'm pretty sure she can take the time off. The only problem is she has 2 kids and a husband. Let me give her a call real quick and see if she could go." "Hold on, Tara. Let me run it by Jack first," replied Ken. He held his hand over the phone while he asked his friend if he had any objections. "How come every time we need a 4th guy, it turns out to be a woman?" Jack remarked. "I don't know. Just lucky, I guess," Ken quipped back. "Yeah. Well, if Tara's sister looks anything like her, then by all means, let's invite her." Ken chuckled before lifting his hand from the phone, then told Tara to go ahead and call her sister. About an hour later, Tara called back. It was all set. Her sister would meet them at Hilton Head. Ken was almost walking on air when he went home that night, but when she heard the news, Jen was a little less enthusiastic. "You're going out of town for 3 days with Tara?" "Yeah," he replied innocently. "Her sister's going to meet us there." "Her sister? Just when did all this happen? Who the hell is her sister? You've never even mentioned her at all." "That's because I've never met her. She lives in Atlanta. Let me get this straight. You and Jack are going to be spending 3 days and nights alone with Tara and her sister in some resort hotel over my dead body," she stated angrily.